Hello, everybody. My name is Gary Minetti with TECH5. We'll be getting started shortly. We'll just give another minute for a few more folks to join. Thank you for those that are attending today. Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, Gary, very good. How are you
Okay,
doing
yes,
today?
my mic was disabled, so thank you. Oh,
Am I loud and clear?
no, good. So we'll give it just a minute more and we'll get started. And turn my phone off. All right, well, I think we can get started now. So again, welcome. Again, my name is Gary Minetti. I'm responsible for public sector commercial business here at TECH5 in the United States and in Canada. Today, we're going to have a deep discussion and demonstration of identifying using mobile identity, basically leveraging the billions of dollars private sector money that's been invested into cellular networks and cellular phones, smartphones, and how we can leverage that technology uh, for instant identification, literally in the palm of your hand. Next slide, please. So joining me today, I'll be presenting the first half of the presentation. I'm going to hand it off to Mark Vernig, our VP of Product Management. Also supporting us today from TECH5, representing TECH5 will be Jonathan Nichols, our Principal Product Manager, who also has a background in biometric architecture. David Lotes, who's on the West Coast, our San Diego officer, a sales manager, and Teresa, our marketing manager. So let's go to the next slide. So a little bit about TECH5. I know some of our customers may actually be participating on this call, and thank you for attending. But for those who don't know who TECH5 is, we were incorporated back in 2018, brought together experts from different private sector companies working in the biometric field. We're experts in obviously biometrics, but what we've done is we've really leveraged our experience in AI, artificial intelligence, and have used artificial intelligence to help do everything from improving the fingerprint capture on a mobile phone, helping correct the camera images that are captured on the phone to get better quality images for better matching, and improve matching scores too for higher reliability and fewer false positives. So those are some of the things that we've done from a technology perspective. We'll get into deeper discussions when I hand it over to Mark in a few slides. We have offices in San Diego, Michigan, and Mid-Atlantic region where I'm located in Maryland. And all of our R&D is done, in support of law enforcement and federal government agencies is done here in North America for obvious reasons, right? We want the development to be done at home. Next slide. So some of our key customers, I'll just touch upon a few of them briefly, and we'll go over, and these slides will be sent to you for further review, should you be interested when the webinar is over. One recent win for us was the Virginia State Police that occurred last year. Under this contract, we'll be modernizing their live scan systems, deploying around 832 live scans across 256 agencies across the state of Virginia. Not only law enforcement, but detention centers, health and human services, parks and recreation, school systems, and so on. So it's a pretty significant win, and we're very privileged to have been selected by the state of Virginia. Also, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. There it's actually, if you didn't know, it's the largest county in the United States, and they rely on us for our law enforcement platform to quickly perform criminal bookings, civil enrollments, and create lineups. As Arizona Department of Corrections, who I think might be participating today, they use our law enforcement solution to help officers in the Arizona prisons to perform intake of inmates, including capturing of mugshots, fingerprints, palm prints, scars, marks, and tattoos, and other things. So that's a little bit about what we do there at Arizona Department of Corrections. And Portland Police and Multnomah is another area where we have applied our technology to help with adult criminal history information and help share that between two different local agencies, help with the bookings of criminals in that environment. So next slide, please. I wanted to go over a couple of key examples of why real-time field identification is key to public safety. Really it starts with just missing the opportunity to identify a criminal real-time in the field, right? Helps with officer safety. Obviously, you know who you have in front of you. Helps with identifying the criminal, any past criminal convictions that they might have had, any warrants that are out for their arrest by capturing their fingerprint, right? Or capturing their face image, or using the two to get high quality matching against those suspects. There's increased costs, obviously, with having to bring people back to the station. It takes officers out of the field when they could be in the field, supporting public safety and in the community's interest. Delayed justice and cold cases and escalated risk to officer safety, as I mentioned before. So see that these are some of the things. Let's look at a couple of examples, if we can, of some real cases that have occurred where if mobile fingerprint identification had been enabled, perhaps things could have gone a little differently. Next slide. So here's an interesting character, Jeremy DeWitt, right? So his history goes back 20 years where he's convicted of sexual battery of a minor. He was released from prison early in 2011. He was charged with failing to register as a sex offender in 2018. But during all of this time period, he's had multiple arrests for impersonating an officer and using a fake ID for traffic stops. He would dress up like a police officer, be in vehicles, pull people over. It was all craziness, right? Now, during these multiple stops, it would have been very easy to capture his fingerprint, and compare it with the back end system and identify who he was, and that he was convicted of sexual battery, had served time in prison, but he went undetected for a long time, right? So the technology could have had a better outcome from a public safety perspective. Next slide. Now, on the flip side, here's an honest guy, Justin Torres, who was wrongfully arrested due to a mistaken identity. Apparently, there was another Justin Torres that had a terrible criminal history, and there was a mix-up, right? So they took a honest citizen and arrested him, jailed him. Very traumatic, obviously. Not good for community trust. Being trustworthy of the citizens that we serve. If he had a mobile ID technology, he could have been identified on the spot and released with an apology. So just another area, another example, I should say, of where the technology could be very useful. Next slide. And this is a very serious, because this person was convicted of murder. So Jeremy Brian Jones stole an identity from a gentleman called John Paul Chapman, and went around just creating havoc. It started back in the early 2000s. He assumed John Paul Chapman's identity by purchasing his personal documents, and went unarrested until finally, at his final arrest, his real identity was confirmed and linked him with multiple murders, additional murders he confessed to after he had been brought into incarceration. So another example where the technology could have been put to good use. Next slide. So, and as I mentioned earlier, there's operational efficiencies and increased costs. If you look at the graphic, you can clear somebody in 1 minute and know if they're a good person or a bad person, as opposed to the time it takes to go back to either a detention center, a sheriff's office, to get the person booked and have their prints taken and so on. So there's a cost element and an inefficiency element to not having technology like this available in the field, and leveraging smartphones, right? There are devices out there that do this type of work. They're independent, single, standalone devices. We're not saying don't use those. You probably should use those, right? But everybody carries a cell phone, and it's just easy, whether it's owned by the by the agency, or if it's a BYOD environment where a police officer brings his own phone from home, you can just load the app and use it very, very easily. Next slide. And, as I mentioned earlier, there's erosion of public trust. There's a delicate balance between mistrust and trust. Wrongful arrests will tip it towards the mistrust side of things, if you will. And certainly if you can bring bad people to lawful resolution more quickly by identifying in real time in the field, that's a good thing that helps gain trust with the public environment. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mark. And I think we're going to save questions till the end. So please note your questions that you'd like to ask. We'll spend some time for Q&A when we're finished. So over to you, Mark. Thank you.
Actually, if you guys could submit your questions in the Q&A tab, that would be really helpful so that we can gear up for those and we know how much time we need to allow for answering all of your questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Gary. Let me move on now a little bit, and with what Gary's said to explain some of the how our solution can be used, the benefits, the challenges of not having such solutions. Let me go through kind of a use case, or really we'll say some user scenarios for how the solution would be used, and then I'll show you the actual application that we have. So really, as Gary's kind of explained, the challenges are maybe one really common scenario is a patrol officer, in a rural area, or maybe just any area really, who might do a routine traffic stop, and maybe have some suspicions about the person there. Maybe they don't have their driver's license. They give inconsistent information. There's any other reasons to suspect maybe something isn't accurate about that. You may not have a probable cause to take them to the station to do anything there, but you could, with their permission, or depending upon what level of probable cause you might have, you'd be able to use a field, a mobile device, to do at least a preliminary identification of the person right there in the field, taking very little time, very little extra cost or no extra device that you need to have to do that. Right there in the field. And even if you are in a big city somewhere to do that close to a station, still it would take time to take them into the station. You might not really have the right to do that. So you're able to do this in the field, whether it's rural or wherever that may be, at a very, very easy cost to do that. And, as Gary kind of explained, there's a lot of benefits to that. You can use in our solution and solutions we recommend your standard department issued or BYO your own phones to do that, and be able to do this very quickly and easily within seconds, getting identification or hits if this is someone to be concerned about. So really, in this user scenario, you're able to identify people very, very quickly, take immediate reaction if you need to take some action to bring them into a station, because now you have more probable cause to do further identification and questioning or whatever it may be. Or if it's all fine, it's at least not a known criminal or anything of that nature, that you can let them on their way and not feel you're letting someone slip through your fingers, so to speak. So moving on to our really solution, let me give a little more explanation of this. Really, you see it as a missing link or a key part of the modern policing solution, where you're able to identify people, quickly, easily, low cost in the field without having to transport them, take time, do any of those things, having to have any special extra devices to carry around with you. So really allows you to move on quickly, not slowing up identification processes or having additional costs, and reducing the risk that dangerous individuals get released when they shouldn't be. So really, the use of a mobile identification solution like this really bridges the gap from having to let someone go without knowing who they are, versus taking the time and cost to bring them into a station if you're allowed to do so. Really gives you a fast, secure, affordable way of doing that type of identification. So to introduce our solution, next generation, really mobile identification solution that we have called T5 Identify Mobile, and it uses our T5 AirSnap product, which I'll show you as well. It really makes this very easy. You see officer using their own or using a standard phone, can capture their fingerprint using just the standard cameras on that phone, or capture their face as well and do that. And then TECH5 provides leading AI-powered facial recognition, but more so in this case, fingerprint identification that we can use to very accurately verify suspects, even just with using a phone camera to do that, and works in really any case, local, rural, whatever it may be. Some of the key benefits of this, as we've stated, kind of smarter, safer, faster policing, if you will. Reduce really or eliminate wrongful detainments or arrests, which could be violations of people's rights and things. Officers not spending their time stuck in transport, bringing station where they'd be off the streets for hours to do that. Avoiding delays or wasted warrants and things of that nature. And really, this does lead to better policing, but also the community trust, not bringing people into the stations needlessly, and also identifying people more quickly. Let me now actually explain our product a little bit, and then I'll show you a live demo. So T5 Identify Mobile, here's a high-level overview of the solution. As I'll show you, it uses CJIS compliant credentials for officers to log into the application. I should mention it's available on iOS and Android devices, any reasonably current device, really a low camera requirement for it, 4 or 5 megapixels, which any modern phone basically provides that. So we have the ability to log in using secure credentials, MFA, whatever your agency uses, we can work with that. It's configurable so that it can capture different fingerprints depending upon what you might like, typically index finger and middle finger, the 2 fingers that are most commonly used for doing a quick identification in the field. But our application can be configured to capture additional fingers, just all 4 fingers on a hand, thumbs, and you can actually just change that up if you want to in the field. For any given person, perhaps their certain fingers are bandaged or amputated, you could select different fingers and do that. So you capture this very easily, and I'll show you that. It's really, I think, amazing how quick and easy that works to capture that. You can also capture face if you want for various purposes. And then for the really quick identification, we support various things that you can be checking against different databases. So we have our TECH5's T5 ABIS biometric database and system. So for local records that you have in your state or your agency, whatever that may be, we can use our backend service to do one-to-end identification very quickly on that using these photos against your traditional databases. And we can do that with our top-ranked from NIST fingerprint algorithms that are very, very fast as well. Just comparing the probe from the phone camera with the databases that you currently have or that we put in place for you. And when matches or possible matches are found, we'll have the information about their arrest records or whatever else we have in the system for them, where we'll display that on the mobile device as well. We can also go against like the state ABIS. There's a very standard interface that is available in ABIS systems, or your state MBIS, as you might call it, where we can do a rapid ID search using 2 fingerprints. And with that, we can very quickly get back hit from that. And then also with cooperation and certification from your state and FBI, this can also be sent to various FBI databases where they actually have for a specific individuals with high security concerns, the FBI risk database, people on various watch lists and of serious concern, they actually provide a response within 2 minutes. So that can be very good for any cases where you might have a fugitive at large, if you will, that you'd want to be able to identify in the field very quickly, but also it can do additional state and federal databases that it can work with. And it shows you this. There's some other options I'll show you, and it comes back with the kind of standard color coding that, you know, someone comes back with a red hit, that's someone you want to take further action on. A possible hit you may want to take further action on, depending upon other circumstances. If it's a no hit, then at least you're assured it's not someone that's known or unknown to be of any issue. And then gray here shows that it's still pending a response from maybe a system. And just to preview a little bit, the T5 AirSnap finger that I described, you can kind of see this. I'll show you this real time on the actual mobile app that we have. But basically, just to highlight this, this is one of the key technologies from TECH5 that makes this solution possible using your standard phone. We allow you to configure, you know, take a picture of your thumb, take a picture of 4 fingers, or just 2 fingers as it may be. And as you can kind of see there, we're able to, from the raw image from the camera, able to see as it captures this. It gives you great guidance to capture it very quickly, color coding to help you line up the fingers and things, and it gives very high scores on the quality. So we're able to use our AI technology to take the raw image, convert it into a black and white format that's very well suited for matching against traditional biometric databases. With that, let me bring up my mobile phone here and go through this. This is a mirror of my mobile phone, Android phone, but it works with iOS, as we said as well. I unlock that. Have a number of different actually applications on the device. You can see a number of things. We have AirSnap product that we license, some other digital ID products, but I'll just go through this one here called TECH5, which is our T5 Identify mobile application. As I mentioned, this application for a deployment at a given law enforcement agency will be set up to work with their CJIS compliant credentials that they use for their officers, whether that be through our other applications, which provide CJIS compliant username, password, and second factor authentication capabilities, or it can also be easily configured to work with your Active Directory, your Azure AD, or Okta, or any other OIDC compliant system using MFA for that. In this demo, we'll just don't enter those, but we'll just move ahead and log in. As I also mentioned, the application can support doing facial recognition, actually, but we're highlighting fingerprint recognition at the current time. But for demonstration, I'll show you capturing both face and fingerprint to show you what both of those look like. With the face capture, this is actually quite quick. As soon as I put my face, as you see, just kind of close in the screen, our AirSnap face technology, which is actually used this too, ensures that an adequate quality picture is captured for being able to do facial recognition. If you didn't like that, maybe you'd ask the gentleman to take their glasses off and maybe recapture this. I'll just do that again to show you. You recapture now without my glasses. It seems to always get my mouth open. But anyway, it does that very quickly. Good capture. We'd be able to do facial recognition on that very easily. So if you accept that, I might notice that you see the buttons. We have very large buttons. This is what we call thumb-friendly mobile application design, where any operations by an officer using this phone generally can be done with one hand. So you can hold your phone, as you could imagine, in one hand and just use your thumb to press the accept button, which would be your most normal action here, and do that so your other hand is free for your protection, hand on your gun, or whatever else you might need to do. So if I do accept this, now we'll do the fingerprint capture. This demo is set up to do one finger at a time, just to show you that. So if I hold my finger pretty steady there, you could see asking a citizen in their car to put their left hand out the window, or to just put out their left fingers. To do this, you could capture these fingerprints very easily. We also have the option of holding both of those fingers out at the same time, and our software will capture them both at once and then segment them or separate them like this. So you can get an idea of what the captured fingerprint looks like after we use our T5 AirSnap finger technology to take those raw colored images and to essentially flatten them, if you will, and to take away any noise on the edges and things of that nature, take out the background, to make a really high quality, some edge enhancement capabilities there to make very good quality images, which are very well suited for matching against traditional databases. And those are things that we're testing with different agencies and the FBI for the accuracy of that, so that can be used by such cases. If they didn't come out well, you could recapture them, but these did come out quite well, so I will accept that. Again, I could just use my thumb to accept it. And here also, officers do not need to type in anything. They don't have to put in any associated information like a given name by the person that's being captured, or a description. But if it is a scenario where perhaps, besides a traffic stop, maybe you're at some type of a crime scene and you have various people detained there, and you want to do a quick fingerprint identification of multiple people, you'd have the ability to capture each one and then go ahead and enter a name here. So I could put my name in, or put other notes in here if I wanted to, and do that. And then go ahead and save that. I could put the notes in and whatever. So, but you can skip that again, just using your thumb. And then if you're happy with all that, again, you can easily hit submit, and we're processing this. And for demo purposes then, I've shown an example of what the response would be from the system. Now, this will be quite quick in many cases, especially if it's using our local database, or certain states provide very quick response on this. In other cases, applications designed so that when a response does come back from a state system, that the phone will be alerted. That can be visual, audio, vibration, however the officer wants to set that up. And then they can come to this screen and see what the responses are. Now, very similar to the way the FBI Rapid ID search works, or that we make it work the same way with local databases, there's the notion of a positive hit, where this is a person who's a known criminal, if you will, and it did clearly identify the fingerprints as matching very closely to that, would appear as red. A possible hit or multiple hits that aren't definite can also be returned, in which case this orange or amber color be used to show that's a possible hit. Depending upon your circumstances, you may want to take further action on that, further questioning, if you will. No hit is a pretty good indication it's not someone who's known to be an issue. You could not worry about that. In some cases, we may also be able to show a warrant if this is something that's a known criminal with outstanding warrants, where you would definitely bring them into the station, so to speak. And pending here is shown, like here, for example, the top row, these would be just the recent submissions or captures that have been done on this officer's phone, with this officer logged into the application on the phone, so they can easily see the submissions that they've done recently, in case they do a few within that day and they're waiting for any responses on them. Although in this case, very quickly, it's showing that there was a local hit against the database, and the state EMBIS is still pending a response. So they'd be able to click on that and get more details. This would just be the picture that was possibly taken when they did the fingerprint capture, just so they remember who it is, who the name is on that. And if I scroll up here, you can see that it is identified information about me, my Arizona or whatever ID number for where I was arrested here theoretically, and any other status about me if I'm wanted, and those sorts of things.
Mark, just real quick, I saw a question came in regarding the Q&A not being open. So I went into the Q&A, whether I opened it or not by doing that, but it looks as though I could type a question if I wanted. So I would ask folks, try using the Q&A, and if that's not working for questions, then try using the chat. And if not, we'll get your questions one way or another when we get to the Q&A session. Okay, sorry for the interruption, Mark.
No, thank you. Yes, we do encourage you to ask any questions here, and we'll answer as many of those as we have time for here today, or get back to you in any case on those. So yes, thank you, Gary. Let's see. So just again, I've theoretically just showing my transaction details. This was submitted to a state or local system. It came back with information. This could come back very quick. So in this case, like the user scenario, the officer would obviously take action on this. There's also additional details, if you could look at this, especially if you typed some notes in here that this was a crime scene somewhere that you took multiple things at. You could have descriptions, whatever that would be there. And you can go on, and if you need to do additional captures, you can do more of these here all at once. There's some other options as far as setting up the selection of different fingerprints, or which fingerprints you want to capture, the police officer's information, how you want to be notified, some details like that. But that's generally the notion of how the application works. Let me move on then and explain some of the benefits and other aspects that we have to offer here. So, this really, I see really moving the notion of having real-time identification like this is moving from these threats in the environment. You don't know if there's a potentially dangerous person right in front of you, that you would, in the first case here, let slip through your fingers, so to speak, by not identifying them quickly and right away, or at least to do further analysis of them, if you will. And likewise, having some suspicions, but saying, well, it's not someone that there's any warrants out for or anything known about, so it doesn't have a criminal history. So from that aspect, we think the risk is lower to just have them move on their way, if you will. And really, just to kind of summarize all the benefits of such a mobile identification solution, as we've said, really multiple benefits. One is the notion that officers have this real-time mobile capability. So even if they're in a high-pressure environment, they can quickly ascertain if this is someone's a known criminal very easily, quickly, right away, to really help with the officer safety and really the community in general as well. And also, the second pillar is the fact that this uses the types of phones you already have. Your standard, any recent iPhone, Android phone from various vendors and things, various customers, Samsung and others. Use that hardware you already have. You don't have to invest in a multi-$1,000 piece of specialized hardware that's one more thing, like in the picture here, to put on your belt and carry around and keep charged up and maintain and take care of it if it breaks and things like that. A different application to learn. There's just a very standard, easy to use mobile app on your phone. Makes that very easy. So both saving time, or saving the hardware costs that you don't have. Training is really minimal, if any. And even use your own phones, if that's how your agency does that, can work with all of those. As we've said, this really helps the community or citizens. Citizens aren't detained needlessly or taken in for additional questioning when that's not needed. Builds the community trust from not having to do those sorts of things, and also for getting potentially dangerous people off the streets more quickly.
And you don't have to use, I saw some questions I'll just address real quickly
Mm-hmm.
here. You don't have to use our ABIS. Certainly you can use our ABIS, but you can use another vendor's ABIS, state ABIS, we'll integrate with that. It's all EBIS formatted, so it's all standards based and easy for us to connect with and integrate with. As far as how is it priced, it's an annual license fee per device, pretty much.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Let's see. Well, that's a good segue because we're right here to the questions. Now, we do have some bonus content we can cover after this as well, but let's go ahead and go through some of the questions we have. I think those are very key ones you've mentioned so far there, Gary. Maybe summarize something I didn't highlight too much is that a lot of organizations, states may have their own local biometric databases, or certainly the state or a large county has their existing database with fingerprints in it. There's a very standard API using EBTS files, FBI NIST files, if you will. There's a very standard approach to use that the fingerprint images that we would capture have a very standard way that we have set up. We just need to certify that, test that against, say, your state or county ABIS or APHIS system, and then we'll get the responses back quickly. A lot of states, this is a guaranteed very quick response time, under 2 minutes or even less. So we can interface easily with any of that, whether that's various states, California, Arizona, and Virginia, others that we're aware of for that. So yeah, good point on that. Let me see, there were a number of questions submitted ahead of time. So let me go through a few of those if we haven't answered them. We did have question about, can we use our older iPhone 12s that our agency is still using? Yes, you can. We actually support iPhones from version 12 and older, really as long as they're supported devices by Apple. And our requirement is really a 4 or 5 megapixel camera, which that goes back quite a few versions that have that. We work on moderate cameras of that sort. Today they're 12 megapixels and more, but going back a few generations on the phone models, we support those as well. I'll say an interesting question. Someone asking about palm liveness. Now we didn't, asking if, let's see, I think the question here says, does your application support liveness assurance for palm images? So there's kind of a couple points to that. First off, while we haven't showcased or demonstrated the use of palm recognition, that is technology that TECH5 has. We do have palm identification matching capabilities in our ABIS or biometric system. We have the biometric algorithms for doing palm identification. We have that. And we are actually working on having palm identification within a mobile device like this. It's something we have the technology to do, but we just have found that at least the law enforcement agencies we've talked to have not expressed interest in that, but we'd be certainly interested in talking to you if that is an area that you have interest in, just as the fingerprint is the more typical use case for doing this initial mobile identification. But again, we have the technology. And then sort of the second part of the question, as I see it, about liveness assurance. TECH5 also does have liveness assurance for fingerprint, face, and palm that we can provide. With that, we've have gone through certification testing of this with different external agencies for face and fingerprint. Palm, that's not really available for there's not standard organizations really focused on that at this point. But so we do have that technology. But I would want to note that this application is in this format anyway, is intended to be used by police officer on a subject of interest. So the police officer himself can sort of assure the liveness, if you will, of the person being fingerprinted there in the field. But if you had any concerns about that, we can basically turn on our fingerprint liveness or face liveness assurance capabilities to ensure that if there's not, somehow something unscrupulously occurring, that we could detect that and prevent anything odd like that from occurring. Although there's some other use cases where you might want to use an application similar for this for capturing pictures of latent prints, perhaps, and in that case, it wouldn't be a live image. And just note, it's not so much liveness as anti-spoofing, because there is a use case. Maybe you have, unfortunately, deceased people at a crime scene, and you could take a picture of their finger with this device and do identification of who they are. So not so much live as that's a real fingerprint in your presence. Okay, let's see. There was another question here that came in about what systems can we submit fingerprints to for identification? So I think we touched on that, and I think Gary just explained that too, but just to go through it a little more thoroughly. So what that means is after you've captured the fingerprints or face on the mobile device, we can work with really any system pretty much that provides that. Sorry for that. Can work with any device that provides capability for this. I thought I had that turned off. Excuse me. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, the different, so let me go through this in a more detail, the types of systems we go with. We talked about our local, or what we call local. We can use our own technology, T5 ABIS. We could set that up new for you, or some agencies have this already. Our customers, so if we already have this type of solution from us, it's very easy for us to just add the mobile application to it. It uses the same backend services that our other applications use to do that, or we can set up a local database and put the right fingerprint templates and things into that for your specific use by your local agency. We can also work with state ABISs or APHISs. As I mentioned earlier, there's a very standard interface for doing that. We know how to do that. That's something we get certified with and can set up to do. You might have regional systems, like in the Western states, there's a Western region WINS network. There's other networks in the Midwest and different parts of the country. We could work with regional systems or county systems, like LA County or other large counties have their own ABIS or MBIS at different times. And then also to go against federal systems, the FBI has it set up such that you submit to your state system, and then the state system submits it to the federal system, whether that be a full fingerprint database search that would take a little bit longer, or for people of there's a risk database, people of high priority concerns, if you will, and that provides a very quick response time. So hopefully I've answered all of that questions there. See, there's a question. Oh, good question. I didn't discuss this one. Someone had asked, how do you deploy this solution? The different aspects of that. First, of course, is we discuss with your agency exactly what you want the application to do, just fingerprints, face and fingerprints, those sorts of things. Configure it a little bit for your specific state, what system you want it to interface to, and those things. But then as far as I think there may also be asking about, how do you deploy the actual mobile application onto the phones? So that is something that, a little provisioning exercise that needs to be done. We're very flexible. We do support multiple deployment options. We can put application for you specifically in the public app stores if you want that. We actually have a way where our application can be put in the Apple and Google Play stores or app stores. And when an officer installs it, if you want to do it manually that way on their phones, there's a way that they register who they are. We verify them against the credentials that we have for them in advance. That, we identify at that point which agency they're associated with and do all of that. Some enterprises or some agencies have what are known as enterprise app stores. You might already have an enterprise app store where you manage a set of different mobile applications that you use. If you do that, we can support that as well. We also provide or offer the use of a MDM, a mobile device management system. We can actually work with any standard MDM that your agency might already have. So you can manage the deployment, or we can help you manage the deployment of the system to your devices that you're already managing with an MDM. Or if you don't have an MDM and you want to have that, we actually offer the leading MDM product from SOTI, which we can use. We have set up to use to make it easy to deploy this to your phones. And also if you want to go on and use that SOTI MDM to manage your devices, that's something that we offer there as well. And there's some other approaches just through more customized approaches to just provide a portal that people can go to and download. So there's other ways as well, but we would work with you however you want to do that and explain those options to you more.
And then there's a question, is the backend server typically on-premise or cloud hosted? If cloud hosted, how does the cloud host submit to an on-premise ABIS? I would say both we support, but Mark, you want to elaborate on that a little bit? I could read it again if you like, or for the benefit of the audience.
No, I see that. Thank you, Gary. Yeah, that's a very good question as well. So all of the TECH5 law enforcement solutions are generally provided as cloud SaaS solutions. So it provides all the benefits of not the agencies not having to have, IT costs and services and servers to maintain and things of that nature. So we provide all of our solutions with the backend on AWS GovCloud. It's CGIS compliant, provides very high security, probably, with the help of AWS. It meets all the requirements for, for FIPS, for encryption, for a whole range of security options. Matter of fact, we've gone through the SOC 2 security process in audits. So, and a number of the states where deployed have been audited, and helped support them in meeting all the CGIS requirements from the FBI for that. But back to the question of, so if it's our backend service, like consider it the mobile gateway, the mobile applications, go over broadband, connect into AWS GovCloud for submitting information. All the information is stored securely, centralized there. Responses go back, they get alerted using Google's secure alerting mechanism to the devices to let them know when new information is there. It does all of that. And so if an organization does have an on-premise component, maybe your current database is on-premise or your state's database is in a data center somewhere, that we interface with that. Our solution in general, we have an integration services capability where we have a low-code component for integrating with on-premise and other cloud solutions for doing that. So with just basic configuration, we can connect to on-premise systems using APIs or file transfer. In many cases, these are eBTS files being transferred through standard protocols. So we support all the different ways of doing that.
We would
think,
connect
address
via IP. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say we would connect from our cloud hosted server to an on-prem Avis just over an IPsec VPN. I mean, that's
Yes.
basically the physical connection, a physical layer connection.
Yes, good point. Yes, and then we could have VPNs, which are typically required for CGIS security compliance as well. And then beneath that is actually using standard protocols for transferring files and doing all of that. Okay, very good.
Now, there was another question. To our knowledge, does the FBI NGI allow 1 or 2 finger image rapid search, even if it is through the state agency? And the answer is yes, NGI does. It's just a matter of getting the interface with the state agency.
Yes, and I understand that correctly. Matter of fact, especially from a mobile solution like this or any solution, a local law enforcement agency, in order to work with the feds, the FBI's systems, NGI, was the other example that you may use, that goes through your state, APHIS, AMBIS, as it be, and the state has an agreement and a certification with the FBI to do that. So, yeah. Any other one? I'm not seeing the ones that are just coming in. So if there's anything else interesting there.
Nothing. Yeah, I mean, I would encourage you. We have 10 minutes left. Please submit additional questions if you have any. If you think of one after, you can certainly contact us. We'll answer them. So wait a minute more for that. If not, we do have some additional information, a little bit on the company and some other products and technology that might, fit and complement what we've talked about today. But this is the Q&A period, so we'll wait a little bit longer and see if any other questions come in.
Okay, so yes, 10 minutes left. There's a few more questions here, but maybe if nothing else comes in, I'll do some of the bonus material here in a minute. Let me see if anything else we haven't answered yet. Well, I guess we have really covered that. I think I mentioned that on Android, it doesn't have to be Samsung, although those are maybe the most popular. And I believe a lot of law enforcement agencies use the Samsung Galaxy devices. We support those, but it can be either other vendors as well, Google or it's a number of different Android vendors. So we can work with all of those. Yeah. Okay, well, that's, I think, the most interesting questions that were submitted. So let me go ahead and do a little bit of bonus content. if you will. I just wanted to explain that our T5 Identify mobile application is part of a suite of law enforcement products that TECH5 USA offers. We have the full live scan T5 capture products for doing booking and civil applicant processes. We have, in addition to T5 Identify Mobile for the mobile application, we have a set of browser-based solutions that do face, fingerprint, palm print, tattoo identification using traditional devices in a law enforcement branch, if you will. So using live scan equipment, using high-end cameras and things of that nature. We also have a number of investigative tools such as mug books, virtual lineups, witness viewers, other things of that nature that do that. And all of this, again, we can use our T5 ABIS or biometric database technology as part of those solutions, including our OmniMatch, which is the name of our biometric AI-based biometric algorithms for face, finger, tattoo, palm, I forget one, iris, those things. Our application itself, besides the mobile application I've shown you, we have traditional kiosk or desktop PC-based solutions, all using a browser-based UI. So they're all very modern, easy to use, standard approach. And as we mentioned here, typically deployed in our cloud, AWS GovCloud. Well, it's actually a dedicated cloud environment for each jurisdiction or each jurisdiction that wants to share information together. So for an entire state in some cases. And we can configure that easily, low code configuration with different systems. The capture product, as I mentioned, we have the ability of having very nice interfaces and support for a range of different third-party hardware to do fingerprints using different vendors, live scan equipment, as well as palm prints. Very nice UI for capturing those. Work with iris cameras too from different vendors for capturing the infrared images from irises and the face, the mugshot. We have nice technology to make sure a high quality mugshot is captured using different types of cameras. And we can also use that for capturing tattoos, which is of more interest of late. We have, as I said, in our investigative area, we have very easy to use lineup creation and witness viewing products. We've had feedback. I've had the pleasure of talking directly with folks at King County, Washington, one of our first companies that implemented our lineup solution, and they felt it was so easy. They said, "Well, we really don't almost need this training," but they gave them the training anyway. It was so intuitive just because it's a browser-based solution. You're able to do all the kind of manipulation of the mugshot images and arrangements you would want, and to do those capabilities, including witness viewing and things of that nature, enforcing all the FBI regulations for how the mugshot 6-packs or 12-packs or other sizes, arrays of mugshots need to be handled. We also have a mug book, which we're implementing for first customer for that now, which is similar. You're familiar with mug books, but you're able to easily, quickly create these, store them online, if you will, present them, have a witness viewing capability for that as well, where a person can identify one or more potential suspects, and that's all documented and controlled and managed. And when they do identify people, you can easily link to see who they are and what their criminal records are and things of that nature. And on Identify, again, using all the different biometrics here, but we have the ability of taking surveillance photos or latent prints or just photos. You can actually capture these photos live, if you will, or import things off fingerprint cards or different things that you may want to do for capturing either live information from a suspect or from surveillance or information. And by doing that, then the system very quickly checks against our local database, as we've described, or against state databases to find facial images that would match that, or fingerprint images or tattoo images. We're using our new AI-based tattoo image recognition capabilities to do this. And I'll say it works very well with, even obscured or grainy surveillance quality tattoos. It's able to do that. So we have all those capabilities in our system. And just a couple things on the platform, I guess. I have mentioned the low-code integration services. So it's often, many law enforcement solutions need to interface, especially a system like this, with a state ABIS, a regional ABIS, jail management or records management systems, other regional networks of systems for doing things, any other types of government systems. In Canada, they have RCMP. Which is like our FBI kind of. So any of those types of systems, we have a system where we can easily configure low code integration to another system, how to connect to it using a whole range of protocols, modern protocols like REST and SOAP APIs or file transfer, eBTS, very common, but other modern and other forms of files that would be transferred with a communication to ensure transmission and receipt of responses. We can integrate into databases directly if that's something you would still want to do. We have file transfer using different approaches, email using different approaches, where typically files are sent or other small files are sent via email or SFTP across systems. And with that, we're able to, we manage the transactions. We manage the receipt of those. We keep transaction database, and in our product, we have the ability for people with the right permissions to be able to view those transaction records. If there's errors, to review the errors, to do any fix-up or corrections they might need to make, or to note the error and do other things with it. Or if responses come back like they've identified someone, to take appropriate action on that as well. So that, I think we're up to our time here. So I think I'll leave it to that for now. Are there any final questions?
I didn't see any come in. I will say, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is providing an open architecture. So we're very vendor agnostic. It doesn't have to be an all TECH5 solution with TECH5 generated software or hardware. It's all open architecture because, we realize that agencies, both state and local and federal, have a lot of technology they've invested in. A lot of capital expense has been distributed across these agencies. So integrating with existing technology is at the forefront of what we do when we bring new technology to market. Other than that, I've got 3 minutes left that we might just give back to our audience to take advantage of. I know it's not much, but. So I guess one last time for questions or any closing comments from Mark at this point. If not, I'll just say thank you all for participating. There should be some contact information where you can get back in touch with us if you have other questions, or if you'd like some one-on-one meetings or discussions, we'd be happy to entertain those. So thank you for attending the webinar, and I hope you walked away learning something that maybe you didn't know before you joined. And thank you.
Thank you, everyone.